third lesson that I want to share is learn the rules, then break them. Order and rules are really important. Every civilization, every company needs them. They prevent chaos. They sometimes protect us from ourselves. But the measure of a person isn't only if they uphold the rules, it's having the courage to question the rules, especially when they're holding back progress, or they're just a plain stupid rule, ones that have just been lingering. We never decided to challenge it. In the words of General MacArthur, he famously said, "We're remembered for the rules we break, not the ones we follow." And during COVID, there were so many rules and customs and practices that we ordinarily followed in the before times, but they had to be broken. And we needed the courage to break them. The rule in vaccine development, for example, is that you couldn't possibly develop a vaccine in under 5 years. You couldn't. People said it'd take 10 to 15. And then it was done in 1. CEOs said employees couldn't possibly be productive working from home. And then they were. Companies like Dyson and Ford, who never worked in healthcare, were suddenly redesigning and producing ventilators for hospitals. So many rules had to and were broken and just fundamentally rewritten. But one of my favorite ones of rule breaking started in the kitchen of a husband and wife, everyday people. It was only last May, if you remember, ICUs all around the country were facing dire N95 mask shortages. You couldn't find them. There was panic. A doctor, her name's Lori Hamima, she's a family physician. She was responsible for overseeing a large healthcare system in Ohio, had just found out from her higher ups that basically they were going to run out of masks right at a time that the coronavirus was surging. It was going to hit. So hearing this, her husband, Kevin, who was an engineer at a company called Battelle, a nonprofit research organization, he decided that maybe we need to break a rule. He said to her, what if we just reuse the masks, knowing well that you don't reuse masks? And his wife said, you can't do that. The experts told him, you can't do that. You have to dispose of it after a single use. And normally you'd be right. That would be the rule. But he dusted off an old study about decontamination, and then he set out to break the rule. Got his wife to help him out, and that night, he and his wife stayed up all night. They sketched out schematics for a decontamination technology that didn't yet exist. And within 5 days, Kevin's company, Battelle, was already testing this wild concept out. Within a couple of months, more than 60 systems were already being shipped to institutions all around the United States and making a difference for frontline healthcare workers. All because he didn't want to accept that the rule was written in the stars. We have to break them sometimes. So here's the thing. Rules serve purpose. There's good reason for them, but sometimes they have to be broken. And because there's no guidebook or internet search that's going to tell you when to follow a rule and when to break a rule, you and you alone are going to have to rely on your intellect and your courage to make a choice of when to follow a rule or when to break it. And that is perhaps the most important thing you'll learn as a professional, is that judgment and risk-taking and bravery, because sometimes you just have to go out and do it.